am Lara Krug, as it says. Let's see here. I am here, I know you guys are all talking about driving growth, sustained growth, so I'm really proud to stand up here on stage as the CMO and the first CMO of the Kansas City Chiefs and the VP of Marketing, and talk to you guys a little bit about how we consider driving champion level growth and obviously year-over-year success. I have been with the organization for about 2.5 years. Before that, I was with Anheuser-Busch running a variety of different brands, but actually started my career on the media side and on the agency side as well. And so it's very much part of my DNA. I was hearing some of the speakers before, and a lot of it felt very close to my heart. So in terms of what that means for us, media and marketing, I oversee everything from brand strategy, creative, production, social, digital, community, our non-for-profit. A lot of different things sit under the media and marketing lens at the Chiefs. And like I mentioned, the marketing team actually never formally existed before I joined 2.5 years ago. There were a variety of different roles that kind of fit in media and marketing, but was never formalized. And so I actually think it goes directly into this conversation about driving sustained growth, because it was something that was really a milestone in terms of the organization of needing to evolve and to change. And obviously, it all really stems from who the brand is and who we are. And these are our 4 mission statements. So this has been kind of built within the DNA of the Chiefs for many, many, many years. It started with Lamar Hunt, our founder, and obviously lives now with Clark Hunt, our chairman and CEO. And actually, if anyone ever comes to our practice facility, on the stairs going up are these 4 pillars. And I actually think when I joined, coming from big brands like Stella Artois, one of the things that stood out to me more than anything was the consistency and the authenticity that the brand has, because I think that's actually what has allowed us to have sustained growth and certainly driving growth, because we have a really solid foundation that we're building off of. It was similar at Stella Artois, but there's a lot of other brands that I'd worked on that we were constantly trying to search for, like, what was the purpose of the brand, right? We knew who our consumers were, but what actually is the reason we exist? And as our mission statements show, some of them obviously seem so obvious, right? Unite our community as being from Kansas City and having you guys all here in town. But the 2 that really stand out for me is honoring tradition and telling that consistent story, but in new, modern ways, and ultimately winning with character. And I actually think that's what differentiates us from the other 31 NFL teams, at least, in the sense of we want to win, and we do win, but we do it in a way that is inclusive. We do it in a way that there's a sense of humbleness to us, which I think comes through on the brand. And ultimately, we counter it with, the Raiders' slogan is "Just win, baby," and there's a difference in terms of how that comes to life, and I think that's allowed us to have the sustained growth that has certainly brought more fans into our universe, certainly lately. Which leads us to this. So when I joined a couple of years ago, one of the first things I asked as to why they were looking for a CMO and why I was in the running was what they wanted to do. And Mark Donovan, our president, who I report into, was saying that there was a real ambition to become the world's team. And when you hear that kind of big, lofty, huge goal, I think that has actually been something that has fueled me, but certainly fueled the organization to say, how can we do more? At the time when I joined, we had won 2 Super Bowls at the time. And there was certainly something in that said that there are the ingredients that people believed and saw that we could add more to the growth, but that we were building off of something. And so this becomes our rallying cry. This is literally in every single presentation, and I've ingrained my team now on every single brief that they come to the table with, that this is in there, because it allows us to think a little bit bigger as to what we want to do, very well knowing that we are years and miles away, right, from doing that, but it gives us a North Star to build to, and I think is really inspirational for certainly people on the Chiefs side. And we felt like it was possible to even have this dream because we felt like we could see the winning ingredients, right? We obviously have the superstars, and I feel like the one in the back is somehow now also in the front in terms of our there we go. We have the superstars. Our entertainment pioneer, so that's Lamar Hunt, our founder. And if you don't know about him, one of the things that I think is the most intriguing beyond what he did for the game of football is actually his kind of entertainment mindset of every single thing that he did was about bringing joy to fans, right, and giving them something to celebrate. He was the first one to have cheerleaders. It was the first one to consider entertainment. He obviously then applied a lot of those ingredients to other worlds like tennis and soccer, which again gives us something to build off of. Brand love, which I'll show you in a second, we have by far, in my opinion, the most passionate amount of fans, and they are growing exponentially. But that's critically important, as I'm sure all of you that work in different sides of the brand or on the agency side know, having that brand love and that loyalty from fans is not something that is easy to get. And is certainly important to hold on to. And then ultimately, that then leads into that kingdom of fans. So a couple things that show then that why we continue to grow and that sustained success and that ingredients is a couple facts, which I think is important. There might not all be Chiefs fans in here. I know you guys are from all over. But actually, this is actually data from last April, which was finished basically right before last year's Super Bowl. We actually became the second largest fan base in the NFL when you consider first and secondary fans. So people that say that the Chiefs are either their first or second team. That's massive when you think about the fact that Kansas City, I think, is about 30th in terms of 32nd market size. So in terms of us punching above our weight class, that's remarkable, and that was before the second Super Bowl and the Taylor Swift effect. So we are hopeful when we get the results in April that will look even different. I think the second one was very exciting for me, someone that's come from beer advertising for a very long time. We have a really healthy split of female and male fans. Again, remember, this was a year ago, April, which is a year and a half ago data. To have something where we're not just talking about a one-size-fit audience, I think is really important and has allowed for us to have that ingredient to think about growing. Our audience, its size is growing, but the type of audience that we have is growing. And then ultimately, a really important point that, again, shocked a lot of people internally who had been within the organization for a long time was that 80% of our fans are actually coming from outside the Kansas City DMA. And I think for a lot of people that would have been within the organization, that was a pretty big shocker. For those that don't know as much about the NFL, as I've certainly now learned of the last few years, what's unique about it in many ways is that all 32 teams are actually limited within their current HMA, like their current home market, meaning that the Kansas City Chiefs cannot put paid advertising on anything outside a handful of about 15 zip codes that are allocated to Kansas City. So when you start learning that fact, someone coming from a world where the whole world was paid media to get anyone to care about anything Stella Artois, it shifts your entire mindset. Because essentially you're saying, if you're trying to become the world's team, but I can only pay to get eyeballs within the same 15 zip codes that are already fans, the way that I'm going to have to do that is by thinking really different. We're going to have to think about the earned strategy. We're going to have to think about organic strategy, which in the world that we live in social is really difficult, but where we have a really interesting upside. And it also shifts the thinking in terms of then the value of merch, the value of the athletes, the value of relationships and partnerships. So that was a pretty big factor in us growing in a sustained way. And this one, which is a sea of red, not a political map, but a Chiefs map, is one that shows where our fans are. And again, it goes back to the 80%. But these were all factors in us understanding how do we build on the growth that we're having and where do we focus our time and attention. The reality is there are some darker red spots, but it's pretty widespread in terms of where fandom is. And what this has allowed us to actually do is certainly pinpoint some markets that we focus on in non-traditional methods. So I'll talk about that through experiential. But it's also really, I think, doubled down on our point of view of doing more, let's call it national and earned media projects, because we know that the national audience is the best way to hit all of our fans in the way that we're allowed to. The other part is the eyeballs, right? I mean, the numbers, which I'm sure everyone has seen from a media perspective, is pretty staggering. For those that don't know, the draft was here in Kansas City last year, which was a really big deal for the city. It was a really big deal for the Chiefs. It's been something that Clark Hunt had been trying to do for many, many years. We were the smallest market that had ever gotten the draft, and I think we've outperformed what we were able to do. But the bottom part actually to me is the most interesting one. So in the last year, basically, 5 out of the top 10 primetime TV telecasts were NFL games. And more so, they were Chiefs games, which means, again, in the atmosphere of media conversations that we're in, it was just another proof point to prove and to help build on where do we deliver sustained growth and where do we spend our time and attention. Finally, and that video is insane and crushed it, and never did I think we would have a half-naked man on our Instagram. But the organic following that we have, media that we have, is substantial. And again, just showing this more, not in the sense of gloating in that sense, it was more on how do we make sure that we have the right ingredients and levers to be pulling for our success. But certainly, and being really thoughtful about where we go to find that new audience and that success. So TikTok, obviously, assuming it doesn't get banned anytime soon, has been a massive driver of a younger audience for us. We're the #1 team on TikTok, and it's something that our team took a real advantage of very early on to test and learn on to find that growth. And we've now found that success on YouTube as well. So all of it being said, we have a huge audience, we have an engaged audience, which is ultimately the most important part. And that then shifted us to, if we're going to continue to grow and have the same success that we have on the field, off the field, we're going to have to evolve how we show up and who people think that we are from a Kansas City Chiefs perspective. So we're not just a football brand, we're not just Sundays in the fall, we're not just in stadium marketing, reaching traditional audiences, regional, reacting to culture. Everything I've just talked through has led us to believe that we're also a lifestyle brand. We actually have a lot of sub-brands, as we call them, right? Our cheerleaders are a massive brand for us. When I think about female athletes, the world of female sport that is certainly starting to take off as it deservingly should be, we have a huge opportunity to build from that perspective. We're year-round. Yes, there is the NFL season, and it's pretty cyclical. Thankfully, ours extends a bit longer than others, but there are a lot of other points that we could be activating. Our stadium has concerts all summer long. That's a brand new audience. We had Beyonce, we had Taylor Swift last year, Luke Combs. They're bringing in oftentimes a net new audience that we can be activating. We're media channels, as I mentioned. We're bringing in those new diverse fans. We're global, which I'll talk about, which is really exciting. It's something that we've now been 2.5 years that I've been here as well, that we've really launched in a much more global perspective. And we believe and we want to be part of driving culture forward. I was just listening to Marissa, who is at the league, and she was talking a lot about this conversation of, can brands be creating culture, and are we all fooling ourselves to think that? I think from an NFL perspective, and certainly from the Chiefs perspective, we feel like we can be part of culture and driving it forward, but we can also help to react to what is happening in a way that feels authentic to our brand. So what that meant for us is then, how do we evolve if we are not just those things, but we are also so much more? We had to start diversifying our offering in terms of the products that we put out, in terms of the way that we're bringing those kind of products to the market, and the way that we are interacting with other brands. We consider ourselves premium storytellers. So 99% of the things that you see from the Chiefs are done completely in-house. We essentially are our own agency. Last year was actually the first year that we worked with an agency, and Barkley being that agency here in Kansas City. That was very uncomfortable for a lot in the organization because we've done everything in-house for so long. Our budgets are, I know people say they have small budgets. Our budgets are truly teeny tiny in the grand scheme of things. But we believe that we are premium storytellers, and so we try to do that. So one example I'll just show you in 1 second. We have something called The Franchise. It's a 22-minute bi-weekly show that essentially comes out during the season. It's access that only we have. It's something that our internal teams do. In the past, we would put out The Franchise on a Wednesday night. We would drop it on YouTube and kind of move on with our life. We actually really consider it now its own mini franchise in terms of programming, as you would watch a Netflix show that was dropping, although those drop all at once. Something that is not dropping all at once anymore. And we really tried to build around that. So now we have trailers, and now we have movie posters, and now we do things on YouTube in terms of selling ads in the content, and then we do things on the app. So we've started to build out these programming and pieces that have certainly allowed us to have sustained growth. So have you not listened to me for 1 second, I'll have you guys watch the trailer of the last episode that just came out. Let's see if I do it right.
Well, I've seen the argument this week that this is America's team now.
You just hear the word Super Bowl, and it sounds big.
Welcome to Las Vegas. Thank you.
It's a fanfare of lights and football and the biggest moments.
All right, here we go. Hey, let's go be great, baby.
I mean, the grandeur of just the name that traces back to this very franchise and to Lamar Hunt and a little bouncing ball, a Super Bowl.
It's where people solidify themselves as legends.
You gotta fight for your right. Yeah!
A generation is every 20 years. And it's going to be precisely 20 years since the 03-04 Patriots.
It doesn't matter the circumstance. They can find a way to win the ultimate game and to win the Super Bowl.
A win Sunday, forget it. All you critics and all you naysayers. It's a dynasty.
Appreciate you guys, man.
And so that, oh, thanks for the clap. Shout out to my team who are unbelievable. Again, we have a production team in-house that's about a total of 7, give or take, that are both basically cameramen, producers, editors, copywriters. They're multi-trick ponies, to say the least. This is a good example, though, when we talk about sustained growth. This is something that ultimately is now presented by GHA. But the thing that's really interesting about our brand and having us rethink how we come to life is we're marketing, we're media, we're a property, right? We have brands that are coming to us not only to spend money in terms of signage and sponsorship, but they're ultimately now coming to us oftentimes as a production team, as content creators. We have talent. So Mitch Holtis, our radio, Matt McMullen, our news writer, now they're becoming talent. People are booking them for their pieces of work. So we've really had to rethink what we are and how we set up to allow for this sustained growth. And it can be really uncomfortable. I left a meeting to run down here where we were going through business planning, and we're having the hard discussions to say, I can't get all the resources, so where is the most important part to be putting our time and money that is going to help with the sustained growth moving forward? A next big piece is experiential. So we obviously, I don't know if everyone has gone to a game, has been to a game. We are very proud of our in-stadium experience. I personally didn't grow up as an NFL fan, which people, I think everyone's like, oh, did you want to be in the NFL your whole life? I'm like, didn't even watch NFL until I met my husband who's from Kansas City. The reality is, we know that most people won't be able to come to a game. And even if they could, we only can fit 72,000 people. So unless I stacked 50 stadiums on top of each other, I won't be able to reach the millions of people that we believe are going to be part of sustained growth. So experiential has been really important to us on how do we take what is so uniquely the Chiefs experience and bring it to more people in the ways that we can. So the picture behind there is something that we did. We called it the Champions Tour. We actually bought a double-decker bus last year. One that was non-functioning. We built it down to the studs. They built it back up. We worked with an amazing company called Cruisin' Kitchens down in Texas. And this bus now becomes an activation vehicle for us. It went to over 9 stops last year all around the Midwest to about 50,000 fans. About 75% of them have never been to Kansas City, have never been to Arrowhead, had never seen the Lombardi Trophy, had never met Casey Wolf. We were able to capture their data, connect and create emotional connections with them, and ultimately help for more growth. We piloted it last year. A lot of people were like, you're insane for buying a bus. This is crazy. Now we have multiple brands that are talking about wanting to sponsor it. We're really community-minded. It was part of the mission from day one. We have invested millions of dollars back in Kansas City, especially focused around families, children in crisis, families in crisis, health and wellness. It's something that is deeply important to us. It's also something that we believe is deeply important to many of our partners. This is an activation that we do with McDonald's and the Ronald McDonald's House called Red Friday, and for the last almost 45 years, it's existed in the last 11. It's in its modern form where fans come out to McDonald's as well as go online nationwide to buy a flag where all of the money goes back to Ronald McDonald House. So again, it's about finding more ways that make sense with our partners to drive that sustained growth, but things that are still very authentically us. Youth development is a huge part of our business. We know that we need, as much as growing our core and our avid fans is super important, they are the core of kind of what makes the flywheel go around. The youth development is critically important. I'm sure people have read the studies that live sport in general is going down in terms of younger people wanting to watch it and participate. Obviously, tackle football has had its variety of challenges and issues, and so youth and flag football has been a real push by the league. It's certainly been something that we have adopted since day one. Girls flag football is a critical area of growth for us as well. Again, all of these have been ingredients that have allowed for us to drive to success moving forward, and something that you will continue to see both above the line and below the line. And then this one, which is fun. So, I think when we talk about being part of culture, it also means leaving our universe and starting to go into other universes. Obviously, a very famous woman helped accelerate a lot of that. But again, it's about taking that opportunity and doing something with it. And so for this year, for playoffs, we know it's a really interesting time in the year. A lot of fans of their number one fan team, the team doesn't go forward, right? And so they're oftentimes still wanting to watch a team or root for a team, but they don't have anyone to root for anymore. And like I said, we're the number 2 team in terms of first and second fandom. So we wanted to create a campaign that really brought more people in and made them feel part of it. And we wanted to lean into something that was clearly the cultural zeitgeist of just a few months ago, and that kind of romance story. So we created a campaign called 'Tis the Postseason, and one of the marquees of it was all about reimagining that really the best holiday of the year is the playoffs and the postseason, and it has all of the ingredients, that you would say that you would have in a holiday, right? You eat too much, tailgate, you dress up crazy, super fans, a round guy with white hair, Coach Reed, like all the things just made sense. And one of the key pieces was to create a kind of spoof on a made-for-TV movie, which I'll show you in a second, and again, how we've continued to drive growth with new audiences. This is the made-for-TV trailer.
Happy postseason, Chiefs fans. Everyone loves this time of year.
Postseason again, huh?
Amber used to love the postseason. But one moment
Playoff tickets? How could you choose the dog pound over me?
changed everything.
Why?
Ben looks forward to his favorite holiday all year long.
Happy postseason.
When these opposites meet, it's anything but a touchdown.
Come on, Ben, forget it. She'll never go for you. She's lost the postseason spirit.
I'll just tone it down for a bit, until she remembers how magical the season can be.
Sweet nectar to the end zone.
Mitch, I'm pouring my heart out over here. Stop smelling the candles.
Can Ben hide his super fandom?
Oh, he's so cute. What kind of dog is he?
You some kind of wolf mix?
Can Amber let the magic of the season into her heart?
I just read your column. Are you sure about the title, Never Fall for Football?
In a football-crazed town, Amber must call an audible before the clock runs out.
I just feel like he's hiding something.
Well, your love life may be a mess, but your hair's on point.
It is really good.
This holiday season,
Amber, wait.
will love be fumbled?
You're not just a fan. It's your livelihood. It's the Chiefs or me.
Or does it make it through the goalposts of their hearts?
I hate football.
Amber, come on. Nobody hates football.
How could he love me and football?
The heart can be in 2 places at once.
Watch love make a comeback.
You're right.
Order number 13.
I guess I'm going for the Hail Mary.
Hey, she gonna eat that corn dog?
Starring Janelle Parrish, Tyler Hines, Donna Kelsey, Tommy Townsend, Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, and Casey Wolf.
Amber!
I've forgotten how magical this season can be.
Falling for football. Coming to a stadium near you.
It was so fun. Thank you. Credit to so many here. Again, another great audience. It wasn't just about the content, the people that were in that, right? The two main, Tyler and Janelle, their main Hallmark actor and actresses. If anyone's a massive Hallmark fan, there are many more of you than I actually realized. We found out that Tyler Hines has, like Taylor Swift has Swiftie, Tyler Hines has Heinies. Let me tell you, those universes is not what we saw coming. But again, we had to get outside of our comfort zone. We had to lean into something that was going to allow us to grow both in terms of the creativity, grow both in terms of the audience, grow both in terms of partnerships that we would never have imagined before. And then finally, to manage everyone's time correctly, international. So this has been a really big part of my team's time. The long story short of this is that for many, many years, the league has really driven all the international growth of the NFL. The league has decided who is going to go and play at games abroad, and the clubs were really basically just subsidized for losing a game. That all shifted about 2.5, 3 years ago when the league decided to create something called the Global Markets Program, where they identified at the time about 6 markets that they felt were the most ripe in terms of clubs' investment from both a marketing and commercial perspective. We were very aggressive in it. We actually bid on Germany and Mexico from day one, where we would, if accepted, and by putting together a business plan, would be giving the marketing and commercial rights in those markets. We won those markets, and we've now as well have Austria and Switzerland, so we kind of have that whole German region. And it's something now that it essentially is new business. It's a brand new business unit that we have stood up. We have separate P&Ls. I wish I could tell you standing here right now that I have a separate team. It's essentially 4 of us that are doing it as our 9th job. But it's so rewarding because you're able to see markets that have a huge amount of fandom that really just haven't been activated in a really intentional way. We were lucky enough to play a game there in the fall, which was a real catalyst for a lot of the things we were doing, but it's really 365. And just quickly to show you kind of our anthem spot to show some of the messaging there.
Sure, it's just an American football team in a small American town. At first glance, it might seem ordinary, but we know better. We know something they don't. It's more than a game, a city, or club. It can't be touched or held, tasted or bought, yet it remains priceless to those who hold it dear to their hearts. It holds no earthly boundaries, and its energy can be felt everywhere. It began with a vision and has grown into something unimaginable. But don't take my word for it, take theirs. It's called Chiefs Kingdom, and it beckons all to join. We believe that it's okay to lose your voice. We believe that heroes wear capes. And finally, contrary to popular opinion, we believe that 13 seconds is plenty of time.
And the Chiefs Kingdom has firmly planted its flag on top of football's highest summit!
What's that you say? You share those beliefs too? Then you're welcome in this kingdom. And while the seasons change, we don't. We weather ups and downs and withstand the tough times, reflecting on those moments when from the mountaintop you can see our expanse. It's always there. When you're in it, dann bist du zu Hause. Chiefs Kingdom is wherever you are.
So a lot of this was also, we have a huge amount of, there's a lot of KPIs and jobs that we have to do, a lot of education of what is American football, who are the Chiefs, where is Kansas City, who are the players. I mean, you're talking about a lot of fans that have only seen it maybe once and very surface level. And so a lot of the anthems, a lot of the pieces of content that we've been doing have been having to balance not only the education and brand awareness and engagement, but also making people feel like they can identify with something that they very likely will never get to go and see and touch and feel, right? So it's a lot of pieces that we've had to be doing to drive that moving forward, but it's been super exciting, and we're excited for next year's plans because this will continue to grow, certainly as we look to other markets to expand. At the end of the day, I like to think about it this way, which is we are ultimately in the present, and it is really good for us right now, and we are very aware how lucky we are in terms of being a winning team. It is very difficult, and we know that winning helps. I'm not going to deny that. It definitely helps. But it isn't the only thing, and I believe that my media and marketing team as part of the organization are meant to be really providing a way that the brand becomes drought-proof. We won't always be winning Super Bowls. We won't always, unfortunately, have Patrick Mahomes, although hopefully we have him until the end of time. But we need to be doing things that connect with fans regardless of winning. And so the point here is that we are built on something that has a solid foundation. We're very aware of our past and our tradition and history, but we really try to look in the future standpoint, and I think that has really allowed for us to have that sustained growth. And ultimately, we do know, and a lot of things is difficult, but once you start finding that success, even if it's a small win, it certainly does drive more greenness. I think we found a bunch of wins, both off the field as well as on the field, that has allowed for the snowball to roll. And I think that ultimately, in terms of mindset, has been a really critical piece of moving it forward. Okay, I'm 1 minute over, but thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. We have time to ask you a couple quick questions. You shared that map of Chief fans by market. Hi, I'm over here. We here all love data. Can you tell us how often that data is collected from your regional fan base, and how do you go about conducting that analysis?
Yeah, it's... So I'll tell you the answer, and then I'll also give my point of view on what I would love to have more of. So we get basically official league data once a year. They do both qual and quant and panel in terms of giving us fandom and giving us kind of the market analysis. We don't have an insights and a research team at the Chiefs. It's been something that we've been certainly starting to build up, but we get that data once a year. We supplement that with third parties like a YouGov, where we tried to have that be more quarterly. And then we have just now in the past year started to do some of our own custom research, especially when we start going into like fan segmentation, where we've gone out on our own and now paying and creating our own custom research, because I felt like for us to drive sustained growth, we need to fill in a lot of the holes that we weren't getting from a basic map. Does that answer?
Yeah, for sure. And what are your thoughts on the potential tailwinds of legalized sports betting for Missouri this year or in the future for the Chiefs' growth and revenue?
We would love for it to happen one day. And I think from a partnership perspective, I think the team has certainly, sees the huge potential of it. I think it's been something that's been on the docket for quite a while. And so if it happens, we will certainly take advantage of that. And in the meantime, we look for revenue opportunities in a lot of other different places.
I think we're at time, but if you can just answer one more question, how heavy is that ring that you're wearing?
It is heavy. I was like, I never wear this. I feel like I should start wearing it to events like this.
So glad you did. Thank you so much.
It makes all my other rings look very small in comparison. Thank you so much.